bilingual and multilingual students. I want to warmly welcome you and thank you for joining us for today's national press conference entitled Crisis for English Learners, Delayed Federal Funding Jeopardizes Education Nationwide. This event is brought to you by NABE in partnership with Revolución Educativa, Unidos US, Californians Together, and the Intercultural Development Research Association, IDRA. As of June 30th, states and territories are unable to draw down an estimated $4.8 billion in congressionally appropriated funds across at least 4 programs authorized under the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, Title I, Part C, Migrant Education, Title II, Part A, Supporting Effective Instruction, Title III, English Language Acquisition, and Title V, Part B. Nita M. Lowy 21st Century Community Learning Centers. While all states and territories are affected, 33 states and territories face especially severe impacts as the total funds across these 4 programs are more than 10% or more of their overall federal funding or K-12 funding. Together, we stand united with educators, administrators, and advocates from across the country to speak up for the 5.3 million English language learners who deserved immediate and equitable support. We are today here because the U.S. Department of Education has yet to release appropriated funds for Title I, Title III, and the REAP, Rural Education Achievement Program, and Migrant Education Program grants. We're especially focusing on the $890 million in Title III funds, federal funds appropriated to support English language learners and immigrant students through the Every Student Succeeds Act. As of yesterday, school districts got notices that funding would not be extended. These delays are not just technical issues. They're causing real and immediate harm. School districts are laying off staff, canceling contracts, and freezing services that English language learners depend on to succeed. The time to act is now. Now, it is my honor to introduce to you our moderator for today's event, Amalia Chamorro, the Director of Education Policy for Unidos US, the nation's largest Latino civil rights organization. Amalia?
Thank you, Margarita. Welcome, everybody. Please note that today's event will be recorded, and we also have a lineup of speakers to be able to share the impact of these very devastating lack of inaction from the administration today. So first, we will hear from Jody Grant, who's the Executive Director of the After School Alliance from California. We also have Dr. Ana Dejana, Oxnard Superintendent. From Texas, Dr. Judy Lara, former State Director for Emergent Bilingual Support for the Texas Education Agency. Florida, we have Dr. Susan Peña, Assistant Teaching Professor. And last but not least, Kansas, Elizabeth Ramirez, who's an educator in that state. All of our speakers will be available for questions, and we will also be able to provide the option for Spanish commentary. We also have available Margarita, whom you just heard from the National Association of Bilingual Education for any additional questions. And we also encourage you to share questions at any time in the Zoom chat as you hear from our speakers. And we will also be able to address questions at the top of the Q&A portion after our speakers go. So just for background, Title III supports a crucial programming, language instruction, academic support, and teaching professional development for English learners. Without it, local and state efforts to serve multilingual learners are being jeopardized. As we just heard from Margarita, the Department of Education just sent a notice to states yesterday that programs like Title III, but also other programs that not only support English learners, but other vulnerable students, like Title IV Part B, which is what Jody will be sharing with us about, which supports summer learning and after-school programming for students, as well as Title IIA, which help train and support educators. All of these programs are under review. and funding is not being released at a time when our schools and districts desperately need to be planning for the new school year. There's nothing to review from the department because Congress has already approved this funding back in March. And in fact, this action is illegal and it is an overreach of the executive branch. So again, we're calling on the administration to stop playing politics and immediately release these funds without further delay. Our students deserve better. And now we will hear from some of the folks who are on the ground to share with us how their communities are being directly impacted. First, we'll hear from Jody Grant, the Executive Director of the After School Alliance, to share with us a bit more about the after school programs and impact on the student population. Jody?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Amalia. And thank you all. I'm really sad to be here because this is just devastating for our students, our families, our communities. After school and summer learning programs are American success story. They keep kids safe. They are a lifeline for our working parents, and they inspire learning. And the Trump administration's decision to withhold congressionally approved funding for after school and summer learning is causing a drastic impact today. 10,000 after-school programs serving 1.4 million students are impacted. Parents across the country are counting on these programs to support programming for their kids this summer, this fall, and throughout the next school year. And withholding these funds, every hour that they're withheld means that programs are scrambling and many are going to have to close. It's going to mean more children and youth are unsupervised and at risk, more academic failures, more hungry kids, more chronic absenteeism, higher dropout rates, more parents forced out of their jobs, and a less STEM-ready and successful workforce as our child care crisis worsens dramatically. I want to tell you what this looks like in just one of the school districts that's impacted by this, Gadsden, Alabama. Their city schools stand to lose after-school programming for 1,200 students across 6 elementary schools, 2 middle schools, and 1 high school. These programs provide essential academic support, enrichment, and a safe space for students until 6 o'clock every night, while also helping working families throughout the community meeting local workforce needs. More than 75 employees are going to lose their jobs as these sites are either going to have to drastically reduce services or worse, shut their doors completely. Without immediate action, all of these programs in Gadsden are going to close throughout the next year. I also want to say that these programs are a haven for our ESL learners, where they get academic support and enrichment that really help build their English fluency as well as their literacy. I've seen amazing programs, particularly in rural areas, where they operate 4 days a week for school, and the 5th day is all after school, where ESL learners get to really dive deep and get support for their academic lessons, as well as finding a place where they're safe and they belong and they can grow. Combined, this funding loss for after school of $1.32 billion is just catastrophic for our families. And it's not a surprise that this is deeply unpopular. Voters across America strongly support after school. In fact, 87% of voters said that after-school programs are an absolute necessity in their communities. And 4 in 5 Republicans voters that we reached out to said that they want to increase funding for these programs, not decrease, or worse, what's proposed now, eliminate this funding. So I am really proud to be here today because this is devastating news for all of our students, and particularly for our ESL students, and we need to release this funding now so that our students, our families, and our communities can get back on track with the academics and the enrichment that they need.
Thank you, Jody. And I hope this really drives home, right, the compounded impact that all of these programs and the lack of funding will have on our communities. So next, we will hear from Dr. Ana DeGenna from California. So in California, which is also my home state, it is home to more than 1 million English learners, 15% of the student population. Dr. DeGenna, who's the superintendent from Oxnard School District, will share how Title III supports educators, students, and curriculum design across the state. Dr. DeGenna?
Yes, good morning or good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today to talk about this very important topic. Today, we're here to talk about something that affects about 1.1 million students in California, our English learners. These students are working hard every day to master English, to excel academically, and to contribute to our communities. But their future and the support that they receive in our schools is at risk through these decisions. California is funded by Title III and through two main avenues. The first is through the English Learner Student Program. This program helps students gain English proficiency and meet the academic standards. Second, through the Immigrant Program, which supports districts with growing number of immigrant students. These funds go directly to local schools, school districts, and charter schools based on the number of English learners that they serve. The impact of Title III cuts in our communities is very, very significant. Delaying or cutting Title III funding would have real consequences across our California schools. We would be losing vital student services. We would lose some of the after-school and summer English learning programs, the extra tutoring, and the curriculum designed to meet the needs of our English learners. These are not luxuries in our schools. These are lifelines, especially in our most under-resourced districts. This would also affect the training of our teachers. Title III supports professional development for teachers of English learner in specific strategies and pedagogy to serve their needs. Without it, fewer educators would be prepared to meet the students' needs who they serve. Additionally, beyond that, this is Title III funds is used to build support within our families. We know with all the research in education that having parent involvement and engagement in student learning is vital for their success. Title III funds help support many of our bilingual translators and interpreters, our family liaisons, and they allow us to provide special workshops for our parents that allow them then to support their students at home. Without this outreach, families who do not speak English could be cut off from schools and the support system that they need in order to help their students be successful. This is also impacting many of our districts, but particularly the smaller rural districts would be greatly impacted with this loss of funding. Without it, they lose the ability to hire bilingual staff or even qualified English learner support services. Title III, our main focus of Title III is really to improve the education of our students with targeted programs and language support staff. Without it, students will fall behind. We are still recovering from pandemic loss, and this would just add to that. This will also affect how students perform on assessments like the LPAC and ultimately affect our graduation rates. Because of the Title III funding that we were expecting, we have already made lots of decisions in our districts in terms of staffing. So districts will be forced to use general education dollars to fill these gaps. But those funds are already stretched thin. Again, continuing to meet the needs that have already been in place as a result of the pandemic loss. When everything's under pressure, without all of these supports, our English learners will really, really fall to the bottom of the list in order to provide them the supports that they need. So the bottom line, the result of cutting Title III will have huge impact on our schools. The first is that it will have wider achievement gaps, possibly reduce quality in the education of our students. There'll be greater strain on our teachers, our families, and our communities. We cannot afford to leave over 1 million English learners behind in our state or across the nation. It is wonderful to see the success that happens when these programs work effectively. Most recently at one of our promotions, it was wonderful to have one of our students who is part of our newcomer program be able to stand at the promotion and deliver a beautiful speech in English and share the impact that these programs have had on her life and the opportunities that they will have for her as she moves forward into high school and beyond. So this is really a call to action for all of us. We urge all of our decision makers to help protect Title III funding for the sake of our students whose futures hang in balance. California's diversity is its strength. and supporting our English learners is not an optional. It is essential for the success of our state and for the success of the country. So thank you again for being here to listen to such an important message.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jenna. And I know we also have other speakers that we will hear from. Just wanted to give you an opportunity. If you wanted to just do a couple of takeaways in Spanish, we'll also have Spanish commentary at the end. But if there were a couple of key points, or if someone, one of our interpreters instead could make that for you, let us know. All right. So next we are going to hear from Dr. Julie Lara from Texas. And I just want to mention, I've seen a few questions already on the chat in the Q&A section of the Zoom. So just a friendly reminder to our journalists and reporters who are on the call to please identify your media outlet so we can make note of that and so that we can also prioritize questions from the media. All right, so next we'll hear from Dr. Julie Lara from Texas. Thank you again, Dr. Jenna. Julie Lara is a former state director of emergent bilingual support, where she oversaw the Title III program within the Texas Education Agency. Dr. Lara, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. And as mentioned, I did serve as a state director in Texas at the Texas Education Agency from 2020 to January of 2025. We use the term emergent bilingual in Texas, but we'll continue to use the term English learner throughout my remarks this morning or this afternoon. And I do appreciate the opportunity to also contribute to this very important conversation around the importance of Title III funds. Texas, like California, one of the largest states in the country, serves 1.3 million plus emergent bilingual English learners and immigrant students. In the 2024-2025 school year, for example, the Title III funds that were allocated to Texas was over $132 million. These funds are specifically intended to supplement, not supplant, local and state funds. Its distinction is important because Texas is one of the few states that does have state bilingual allocation. The Title III, though, funds are relied upon by districts and by the state agency to help to provide equitable access to a high quality education for our English learners and our immigrant students. Each year of that $132 million that I referenced from last year, 95% of that allocation goes directly to school systems. And numbers are important when we talk about the impact of the absence of this funding. So in Texas, we have over 1,200 school systems, which includes districts and charters. 95% of that money I just mentioned goes directly to those districts. Of those 1,200, about 92 to 93% school districts in Texas serve English learners and English learners and immigrant students. So you're talking about a whole lot of kids that are being impacted by the absence of this funding. The other 5% of the Title III allocation to Texas stays at the state agency. 2.5% is assumed by the agency under administrative costs. And the other 2.5% is directed to the program division, which is the division that I oversaw. During my time there, along with the Title III coordinator, we were really strategic on how we use that Title III funding. We were able to, most importantly, expand dual language implementation across the state of Texas. As everybody here knows, I'm sure you all agree, dual language education is the most appropriate educational setting for English learners. It yields the best outcomes for all students who participate. So as a state agency, we were able to expand dual language guidance across the state, and it helped inform the OELA playbook. We also were able to start and maintain the txel.org portal. That is a hub that we host at txel.org. If you haven't subscribed, please do that. It has free resources and guidance for school systems as well as educators. I will echo what Dr. DeJenna mentioned earlier about the importance of Title III to support families and family empowerment. We do have a section on our portal or on the portal that supports, again, educators and families. And we were also able to continue to provide statewide professional development with the use of that 2.5%. annually in the Title III Symposium. That conference is very well attended in Texas. More than 1,500 educators come every year to get high quality professional development from the state agency. Again, Title III funds, if we do not have those funds, it will have a lasting impact at the state level as well as at the school level. At the school level, as Dr. DeGenna said, very similar in Texas. School systems use those funds very, very practically. I will also emphasize, of the 1,200 school systems in Texas, 600 of them are considered rural. So our rural schools are also going to be heavily impacted with the absence of significant funding. But again, school systems in Texas use Title III funding to hire paraprofessionals in rural communities. That sometimes is the person who provides the language services in many cases to students. It also provides stipends for certified teachers. But again, most importantly and critically is the ongoing professional development that our teachers, paraprofessionals, and staff receive through the use of Title III funds. I just can't stress enough that something like education should not be politicized, and every day that we don't have those funds, students and their teachers, students and their very well-intended teachers are going to suffer and experience lasting impact.
Thank you, Dr. Lara. And next, we're going to transition to our Florida speaker. And where more than 270,000 English learners, about 9% of the student body, are affected by this funding delay. So we're going to hear from an educator, Dr. Susan Peña, who's an assistant teaching professor. She's also a parent of a student who resides and goes to school in Florida. Dr. Peña, the floor is yours.
Hi, buenas tardes. As you all know, my name is Suzanne Peña. I'm an assistant teaching professor and a parent, proud parent of a student in the Florida public school dual language program. So here in Florida, Title III funding is a critical resource supporting more than 300,000 English learners enrolled in our public schools. Students who come from homes that speak over 243 languages. What many people don't realize is that nearly half of these students, about 151,000, are US born, growing up in homes where language other than English is primarily spoken. Florida received about $56.5 million in Title III funds this past school year. These dollars were distributed to districts like Pinellas, Duval, Seminole, Osceola, Orange, Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade counties, among many others. These funds are used to invest in educator professional development, instructional support, and family engagement. In my experience, working alongside districts and leading federal grant initiatives, including various national professional development grants, I have seen firsthand how these funds transform teaching and learning for our students, our educators, and our families in Florida. These are just some of the concrete examples of how Title III funds have impacted the education in Florida. Some things like ESOL endorsement courses, where districts are able to use Title III funds to train teachers, hundreds of teachers each year, so they can effectively scaffold rigorous content for English learners. Supporting bilingual paraprofessionals by training, providing monthly workshops funded by Title III, help and support staff to learn targeted strategies for language development for our students. And also with WIDA standards training, districts have been able to use Title III funds to run ongoing sessions so educators can best assess and respond to English learners' progress. Now, through projects like these, we have advanced dual language education, we have strengthened bilingual teacher pipelines, we have also prepared thousands of educators to leverage students' full linguistic repertoires by providing the tools needed to increase academic achievement. All of these efforts focus on one core goal, which is raising student achievement and preparing students for skills that they need to succeed in college and career and life. Now, I'm gonna, just for those that would like a little recap in Spanish, I'm gonna be very brief and just to highlight a couple of points. Buenas tardes o buenos días. Mi nombre es Susan Peña, soy profesora universitaria y madre de un estudiante en un programa de educación dual en una escuela pública de la Florida. Quiero recalcar que los fondos del título 3 son esenciales para apoyar a más de 300,000 estudiantes del estado que están aprendiendo inglés como segundo o otro idioma. Muchos no saben que casi la mitad de estos niños nacieron aquí en Estados Unidos y crecen en hogares donde se habla otro idioma. El año pasado, Florida recibió aproximadamente $56.5 millones en fondos del título 3. Este dinero se distribuye a distritos como Orange, Osceola, Miami-Dade, entre muchos otros. Se utilizan estos fondos para capacitar a maestros, apoyar al personal escolar y a fortalecer las relaciones con las familias. Algunos ejemplos son cursos de endoso, de ISO, que preparan cientos de maestros para enseñar a estudiantes multilingües, talleres mensuales para asistentes bilingües sobre estrategias de desarrollo del lenguaje y también capacitación de los estándares de WIDA para evaluar mejor el progreso de los estudiantes. Gracias a todos estos proyectos y a los fondos del título 3, hemos fortalecido la educación bilingüe, hemos apoyado a los educadores que ayuden a los estudiantes a alcanzar su máximo potencial académico. Y no puedo dejar de recalcar que todo este trabajo tiene un propósito y es aumentar el rendimiento estudiantil y preparar a nuestros jóvenes para que sean exitosos en la universidad, en el trabajo y en la vida. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias a usted. Gracias por compartir su historia del impacto en Florida. Thank you for sharing your impact story. And finally, we turn to Kansas, where although the English learner population may not be as expansive as in some of the other states, the impact is no less critical. We are joined today by a local educator, Elizabeth Alves Ramirez, who teaches high school students. Elizabeth, please go ahead.
We have, I think, over 100 languages in Kansas, but we're here. We work. In my 13 years of working with English language learner students and their families in Kansas, I've watched children arrive speaking no English their freshman year and graduate high school, not only learning English, but mastering all the skills required to graduate from high school. But this success doesn't happen by accident. It requires Title III funding. My name is Elizabeth Alt, and I've worked with multilingual communities in Northeast Kansas for over a decade. The Midwest has always benefited from migration and immigration, and I've witnessed our emergent bilingual population grow with each census. Many of our students are born here to families whose home language isn't English. This diversity enriches our communities and drives innovation in our schools and universities. As a classroom teacher, I know that Title III funding must be released to local education agencies, and here are my 4 reasons why. First, those wraparound services. Title III funding provides districts to have support for families, newcomer programs, and community events that strengthen the critical triangle between student, school, and family. Family engagement and support are key to supporting families in our schools and their success. Second is our qualified staff. These funds allow districts to hire certified English as a second language teachers, such as myself, and recruit outstanding aides and paras. Every child deserves a highly qualified teacher and a proper educational support. My ESL colleagues and team create learning environments that benefit all students. Third is our education pathways to higher education. Title III supports institutes of higher education in developing programming that carries students from K-12 into careers and the workforce, ensuring that our ESL learners have opportunities at every level. And finally, what I think is most important is the professional development. Districts use these funds in Title III for teacher training and research-backed methods like SIOP. This lesson delivery training system doesn't just help emergent bilingual students, though. Solid lesson planning and delivery for ESL learners is also good for all students. These students are Kansas's future. Title III funding isn't just an investment in ESL learners, it's an investment in my state's future. And I can't afford to let this critical funding lag behind our growing needs.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And if you'd like to provide any key points in Spanish, you're welcome to. But it's up to you. Sí.
Buenos días, buenas tardes. Yo soy Elizabeth Alt. Yo he estado trabajando con los estudiantes que aprenden inglés desde hace 13 años y he visto niños a llegar a high school, al bachillerato, a prepa, sin hablar inglés y se gradúen cumpliendo los requisitos que necesiten. Pero eso no es de accidente, requiere el fondo de Title III. Los 4 puntos que quiero ver es que los servicios que ofrece, que ayuda los fondos de Title III para que los distritos ofrecen tipos de eventos, tipos de apoyo y tipos de programas. También ayuda a buscar y tener facultad calificada y capacitada de enseñar inglés como segundo idioma. También ayuda a las universidades y carreras técnicas desarrollar programas para ayudar a los estudiantes a llegar al otro nivel. Y finalmente es el desarrollo profesional que ofrece, que ayuda los fondos de título 3 para poder capacitar a los maestros en la mejor forma de enseñar, no solo a los estudiantes que aprenden otro idioma, pero a todos los estudiantes. Y esos estudiantes, todos son el futuro de Kansas y el dinero no solo es una inversión en los que aprenden otro idioma, es una inversión en el futuro de mi estado. Y no podemos dejar que esos fondos no lleguen al aula.
Muchas gracias, Elizabeth. Thank you, Elizabeth. Gracias por representar a los maestros bilingües. Thank you for representing bilingual teachers. Both of my parents were bilingual teachers in California, so I know how hard and dedicated you all are. And now we will make time for Q&A. We do already have some questions from media folks. Some of them will be directed at particular states, so I'll segue to particular panelists, and some will be open to all. The first one is from Tara Garcia Matthewson from Cal Matters. So for our California speaker, you may think about this one. When would districts normally have gotten this money and started spending it? Is the first question. And can district folks talk more about what information you got from the U.S. Department of Education in California or from other state departments who may be represented? So perhaps Dr. Jenna, could you speak to when districts would have, in normal times, have received these funds?
Sure. So these funds are generally forward funded. So we receive how much we're going to be getting as they start coming in throughout the year. So we start making plans for these already. In our district with our schools, we complete our school plans for each one of our schools. We complete those in May and present them so that we present them to our board in the fall so that they can already start expending those funds. So they're really built into it already. Because again, generally we get our appropriations and then we start creating plans to fund them. So they are included already in our budget for the school year to start in the next 6 weeks.
Right. Thank you. Jody, I see you also have your hand up. Do you want to chime in?
Yes, I wanted to say that for the after-school fund, so Title IV, these funds, for as long as we've existed, have gone into the state education agency's accounts on July 1st. That would be today. So we get the allocations are usually sent in March or April so that states know how to plan. But these are funds that have been appropriated, that should be in the state education agencies so that programs can start, that have already been awarded grants, can start using them to deliver services in some states as early as today. So it really is a rescission of funding.
And for any of the folks, I know we have a former state agency person on the panel, but if anyone can speak to more about the information that was sent from the U.S. Department of Education yesterday, and when did folks realize that the money was late? I mean, I think we have all known that this money has already been late, right? As Dr. Jenna and others have shared, the funds from the federal government for these programs, like school districts, they should have already been receiving these months ago. But does anyone want to speak to the notice that was sent yesterday?
I wouldn't have any, I am the former state director. I would not have any information on that as I'm no longer employed there.
From what we know, Unidos and other partners, we did see some of the text that was sent by email to state agencies, which basically said that these programs, including Title III, Title I Part C, which is the migrant education program, Title II, for teacher prep, and Title IV, well, for after school summer learning, we're all under review, right? Which emphasizes the point that what is there to review when these funds have already been approved by Congress, and the executive branch doesn't have the power of the purse, right? Their job is to distribute these funds to the states. And when they say that they want to send education back to the states, then why are they holding these funds that states need to support these students? It doesn't make any sense. That's just my own little commentary. All right, so we have other questions from Howard Bloom at LA Times. We have already, he asked for the list of speakers, so we have provided that information to him. Also, we have our friend Dan Ward from Language Magazine. His question is, what is the actual mechanism for the release of Title III funds? And can federal administrators be compelled to release funds by court orders? I know we don't have our legal organizations on the call, so we can speak to some of our legal partners, but what is the actual mechanism for the release of Title III funds? I think Montserrat, I think you're on the call, but you used to administer Title III funds at the federal level. Is that something that you can speak to?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yes. The question from Dan Ward at Language Magazine. What is the actual mechanism for the release of Title III funds? So from the, like, how does it typically work from the Department of Education releasing these funds to the states?
So the way that we usually used to have calls in the month of March and to May with each of the states, and literally we will write the letters and then press a key per se to release the funds. And this used to happen, already had been happening for the past few years on July 1st. So it's literally like a press the button to release these funds once the letters had gone to each state in terms of the funding, how much money they would get.
Thank you, Montserrat. And Montserrat is the former director of the Office of English Language Acquisition at the U.S. Department of Ed. So she and her team were very well versed in how this process should work. Thank you, Montserrat. Another question, again, from Howard Bloom at LA Times. For current school district officials or teachers who are on the call, and I know we have both, are your programs for the summer immediately affected, and how? And Jody, that may also be a question for you in terms of what you're hearing from your folks on the ground. So again, the question is, are programs for the summer immediately affected, and what's the impact?
So I mean, I can speak for our district. So our programs, our summer programs for our students are not funded with Title III in our district. We use it in a different capacity. We use it during the school year more because we are funded through expanded learning programs in our district over the summertime. So our programs are still functioning this summer. I don't know, Jody, if you have more to add to that.
It depends state by state. So in some states, the impact is immediate. It looks like somebody in the chat was just saying in North Carolina, they're impacted immediately. And we're collecting those stories because they rely on it for summer learning. And in some states, it's going to be when the school year starts. Some assume it's early April. But even then, the impact is now because these funds are already committed, because these grants have been awarded to educators, to parents, to students that are all counting on these funds and these services as the summer continues or the new school year began. So it really is, it's catastrophic. to think that, and it's not just for the parents, but I want to reverberate how much this means for communities. This is Main Street employers. This is, you're going to have kids with nowhere to go at the end of the day. It's really, it's really imperative. And I want to urge everyone to raise our voices and let the administration know they need to release this money for the sake of our kids and our families and our communities.
I would even say,
If I could just echo that in the sense that our students, our program for our students is not, but our staff that we have connected to this, they're already on staff. So we do have, as I mentioned, we have a pretty extensive program for interpreters and translators. One of our largest communities, in addition to Spanish, the other language that we have in our district is Mixteco. And so we have interpreters and translators that are connected, supporting some of our families that need that support the most. So they would be impacted, and it will impact, as I mentioned earlier, our general fund in terms of having to go back and reallocate, because the services need to happen for our families.
and that's what I was going to say, is that it's going to affect districts differently. There are certain districts that have funds available to, shift from left hand to right hand to put in place, but some districts won't. And there will be lots of problems and shuffling around today and tomorrow.
Especially for those rural schools in Texas.
Yes. And yes.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in California.
If I may add, I have already heard from several districts in where their summer professional development ideas or plans that they had have been put on hold, as well as because they haven't released the Title III funds, as well as any plans for professional development for the school year 2025-2026. So everything is pending. So I have already heard from various school districts that without those funds, professional development for teachers and paraprofessionals is being held and not happening until they get that.
So we are already seeing the effects of this money not only being delayed, but continuing to be withheld. There was also a question from Sidis Davely, which I hope, the information that our speakers just provided on summer programs helped answer that from EdSource, because she asked, how are summer programs and migrant education programs currently being held in California going to be affected? I think we just heard from Dr. Jenna, particularly on California, and also from other states in terms of the impact on summer programming. With respect to the migrant education programs, Saida, we're happy to connect you also with our partners at Migrant Legal Action Program and the National Association for State Migrant Education. Directors who are all on the ground with respect to the withholding of the Title I Part C migrant ed funds, and we're all working in solidarity with respect to the compounded effect of these funds. All right. We also have a question from Esther Quintanilla from NPR KQED. Is there any funding available from the state, and this is particularly to California, that can supplement this loss? Dr. Jenna, I don't know about you, but I know California is facing a state budget deficit, so that's probably a pretty difficult.
Correct. I think that this, coupled with many other concerns, the funding formulas in California do address some areas that we need to use for our students. But I do think that this, coupled in California, most of our districts are facing declining enrollment, and the decline in enrollment is impacting our funding significantly. So though the state of California does have a funding formula that does provide resources for our students, it is right now, it just makes it that much more difficult because of the declining enrollment and the budget crisis that we're facing in terms of our schooling in general.
Thank you. All right, and a question from Kara Arundel from K-12 Dive. Do states and districts have any indication how long the Education Department review of these funds will last?
I don't know if anybody else, but we do not. The notification has been very limited, so we really have no idea at this point.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the danger too, right? Is that we don't know how long the money being held hostage is going to end. So what kind of planning and mitigation plans can school districts and individual schools do? The follow-up question was, and is it correct that if those funds aren't dispersed by September 30th, which is the end of the federal fiscal year, the money will revert back to the U.S. Treasury? That's something that we'll have to check on to make sure. Mark Lieberman from Education Week. At the beginning, it was cited about the Rural Education Achievement Program among the programs for which funding is not being sent out today. I think that was Margarita. Can you provide more detail about your understanding of the status of that program? The Rural Education Achievement Program.
I could only say that what we know is that the funding has not been released. And so, and part of what Title III covers is funding, rural education funding. And so because of that, you know, the rural areas don't, as it is, they don't get a lot of funding. And so this funding is critical and really important. And so they have not gotten it and it's being withheld, so.
And I think we have one last question from the media, from Nora Ramey. Chuck from Chuck Beat National Desk. What is covered in the professional development funded by Title III? There was mention of using general funds to continue funding some programs. What is being prioritized? Well, let's tackle the first question first. So what is covered in the professional development funded by Title III?
For Texas specifically at the state level, we host an annual conference where over 1,500 people attend every year. So that likely will not happen if we don't have funds for that. And then in districts, provide professional learning on content-based language instruction, English proficiency, like everything related to bilingual education. The important part though, too, is that we're also not having funds to really provide PD to paraprofessionals who, again, in many rural areas, that is who is providing the language support for students. So yes, teachers need it, but then in more urban districts, they might be able to get that funding. But I think it's really, really going to impact our rural communities.
And I would add, in addition to our teachers and our paraeducators, as mentioned earlier, this also impacts opportunities for us to do professional learning with our parents, bringing our parents and our community in to help support their students' education. Again, I think that can't be, I want to make sure that isn't dismissed, because that is absolutely significant, that we know that students do best in school and are most successful when their families and the community are engaged in their learning. And so providing those opportunities for our families to be part of that learning and to be able to bring them into our school system is just critical for our student success. And so in addition to the teacher professional development in all the areas that Dr. Lara just mentioned, I would also emphasize that the training and opportunities for parents is also critical.
All right.
So benefited from that professional development from Title III. It's it helps it not just be my job as the ESL teacher, but it helps me support the other teachers in my building who are working, other teachers and aides who are working with our students, and it will affect the classroom. It's not just going to be, oh, there's no money and we'll figure it out. Like classrooms, students who are not multilingual are going to not have the same experiences because people are going to be pulled every which way because the money's not there.
No, thank you so much, Elizabeth, and providing the educator perspective, right? When we're talking about professional development for teachers. Before we close and I segue to back to Margarita, I'll just offer and ask for any of the media folks or journalists that if you do need any Spanish commentary, to please flag, and we'll make sure we follow up. All right. So now, thank you so much to all of our speakers for sharing the impact of of this lack of action from the administration on states and local communities with respect to English learners and really all students. I would like to invite Margarita back to help close out the press event.
Thank you, Amalia. Thank you so much to the speakers. We are closing today with one unified message. The U.S. Department of Education must immediately release the $890 million in Title III Year 25 funds. These funds are already appropriated by Congress. These are not new funds. These are not new funds. English language learners cannot wait. Districts cannot wait. Teachers cannot wait. These are not abstract numbers. These are programs, staff positions, and lifelines for millions of students who deserve equitable access to education. I want to thank all our speakers, our advocates, and the members of the press who are joining us today. We have people here from all over the United States, but also from Mexico who are present from the media. The time to act is now. We have added in the chat a call to action, so let's mobilize. Please contact your local representatives. Please contact everyone that you know so that we can mobilize and stand together for the benefit of the students that we share. If you'd like to follow up with any of the speakers, request interviews, or receive a press packet, please contact us at info@nabe.org. Again, info@nabe.org. Today's virtual press conference is the first of an advocacy and action series that we hope to bring to you. We hope to continue to stand together for our students and our communities and the communities that we share. This press conference has been recorded and will be available shortly. Have a powerful and wonderful day, and thank you for standing up for English learners. Muchas gracias a todos.